Vishnu. Sri Vishnu. Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Kunja Bihari.
Everyone together. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Sri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Sri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Om Hri Om. Namaste, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. And thank you, everyone, for being here live in person. Once again, we have a temple full of devotees. And before I continue, let me just make sure everything is working well, sound, everything. I don't see any complaints, so it seems that everything is going very, very well. Very nice. Well, thank you both to Rukmini and to Savitri for leading beautiful bhajans. Thank you, Tulasi, for doing a wonderful, wonderful puja. And if someone would like to grab the ghee-wick lamp and bring it to everyone, that would be wonderful. I'd appreciate it. Well, again, welcome everyone, and we are continuing with a series that we're doing. Initially, honestly, I didn't know it was going to be a series, but it is indeed going to be a series where we are talking about the Gopala-Tapani Upanishad. And indeed, this is one of the 108 accepted Upanishads. And indeed, when I talk about the Vedic scriptures, it's interesting how so many people, even people who are somewhat conversant with the Vedic scriptures, are not fully aware of this, that there are so many of them. So when it comes to, for example, the genre known specifically as the Upanishads, there are 108 Upanishads. There's no speculation, literally zero, as far as what is accepted as one of the official, authentic 108 Upanishads, because these are mentioned in the scriptures. And again, there's no one historically who disagrees with, what is an accepted Upanishad, what is not. And the Gopala-Tapani Upanishad is indeed one of these Upanishads that is accepted as indeed an authentic Upanishad. So the last time that we got together, we went through, I believe, only 2 verses of several that I chose for us to go through from the Gopala-Tapani Upanishad. And we're going to continue today, and let me just warn you, we may end up having this be a trilogy. So we're going to go through some more verses today, but again, we may have so many verses to the point where we may end up continuing with this the next time that we get together. And speaking of the next time that we get together, let me tell people now, most likely we are not going to have a live stream next Sunday. And the reason why is because of the fact that we are having our conference, the International Sanatana Dharma Conference, next weekend here at our temple. We expect there to be many, many devotees from throughout the world who will be here. It will also be broadcast on Zoom as well to even more people from many nations. Let me tell you, here alone, as far as individuals coming to our temple in Omaha, we already have a wonderful devotee visiting us from Iceland. We are expecting tomorrow, I don't know, half dozen or so devotees who are coming across the border from Canada and who will be arriving tomorrow. They're coming many days earlier than the conference to help around the temple and to help to prepare for the conference. Then we also have other devotees coming from, again, throughout the world. If you are wondering why, how you can be a part of this conference, you can't. Let me tell you, and I'm saying that half jokingly actually, let me tell you, the way that we do things is we do things very authentically, and again, in a very traditional manner. Our conferences are not open to the public. They're not open for just anyone to come here out of curiosity or anything like that. An individual has to be a dedicated follower of Sanatana Dharma, not, I'm curious, I'm kind of thinking about it. No, only individuals who are dedicated followers of Sanatana Dharma are invited to our events. That includes our conference, that includes even visiting our temple, actually. So it's by invitation only. So if you would like to attend the conference next year, become a dedicated follower of Sanatana Dharma. And then, that being the case, if you join our Discord forum and we come to know you, if you do seva, if you do service toward the ISDS, if you contribute in some way or another, and we come to know you, well, you will naturally be invited to our conferences. Indeed, this is how we do things. There are so many movements, and I've said this for years about the ISDS because it's true. Let me tell you, I'm someone who I have studied movements, religious, political, cultural, every sort of movement for 50 years. And so many movements make the claim that, oh, when we look for members, we look for quality only. Every movement says that. Our movement also says that, but we mean it to the death. We mean this and it doesn't change. We don't care about quantity. On the contrary, we know that quantity follows quality. So as a result, indeed, we seek quality individuals to become members of the ISDS. If you are serious about spiritual life, if you want to truly dive deeply into spiritual reality, and if you are a high quality individual, and all that means is if you are sincere, if you're a good person, if you have virtue, etc. If you are someone who you're not looking for some sort of quick trip to enlightenment, like so many New Age people, like so many people who are new to the spiritual path. No, if you're looking for a path that you can follow in every way, not just spiritually, but even culturally, as far as following the ethics, the virtues, etc. If you truly want to be a follower of Sanatana Dharma, then I ask you to please explore the International Sanatana Dharma Society deeper. The first way that you can do this is by first of all joining our online community, one of several that we have, and that is our Discord server. And if no one has done so already, I'm sure someone will indeed put the link to our Discord server there in the chat. And again, if you are sincere, please feel free to join that and start engaging in discussion with our devotees. That means asking questions more than anything, actually. I often have to repeat this to people. Don't come to our Discord forum with the illusion that you're going to teach us something. Trust me, you're not. Don't come there with the idea that you're going to teach us something about Sanatana Dharma. Trust me, you're not. Rather, if you want to join us with the idea of learning with humility and of truly growing, not just here, certainly here too, but within, spiritually, if you wish to grow, join our Discord server. And more, join the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Become a member if you can. Go to our website, dharmacentral.com. This is also another way in which we get to know who you are, and that indeed you will be invited to our events. So if you're a sincere individual, if you've been coming to our live streams for some time, a few weeks, a few months, a few years, now take the next step. Become seriously involved in the ISDS. Get to know all of these wonderful devotees. Indeed, I'm looking at a temple right now full of wonderful devotees. And these are people you want to know if you are sattvic. If you're an insincere individual, you don't want to know these people. But if you are sincere, if you are someone who is good, who is virtuous, and someone who truly wants to grow meaningfully in a truly spiritual way, you want to get to know the other very serious devotees of the ISDS, because they are all jewels. And in their company, I guarantee you, you will grow in your wisdom, you will grow in your practice, you will grow in your person. So, all that being said, again, no live stream next week because we're having our conference. So all that being said, now we're going to dive deeply into these verses. So let us continue. Again, we're going through the verses, not all of them, but several selected verses that I selected from the Gopala-Tapani Upanishad. We're going to look now at chapter 1 and verse 21, and it proceeds in this way. For those who are constantly engaged in worshipping this supreme abode of Vishnu, rather than their material desires, he immediately appears in the form of a cowherd boy and carefully reveals his own abode at that very time. This verse alone is actually one of the most esoteric verses in the Gopala-Tapani Upanishad. And as I now unpack this verse, you'll see what I mean. This is an extremely, not just important, but very deeply esoteric verse. Let's go through this. First of all, For those who are constantly engaged in worshiping, now let's stop there. We won't even finish the first clause of the first sentence. For those who are constantly engaged in worshiping. We have heard constructions like this throughout the Vedic scriptures again and again and again. When speaking about sadhana, when speaking about meditation, when speaking about worshiping, when speaking about doing anything spiritual. We hear this again and again, constantly. So again, why is this the case? When you see something that is repeated again and again in the Vedic scriptures, it behooves you to take that seriously. So what is meant by constant is that indeed, again, what the Vedic scriptures, what Sanatana Dharma has to offer us is something that is practically now unavailable in modernity. And that is the very opposite of what modernity has to offer. Modernity offers the quick. Modernity offers that which is really meaningless. This is why New Age frauds, fraudulent teachers can make so much money. Oh, give me $1,000, I'll give you a mantra that you do for 30 days, you'll be enlightened. Indeed, that is modernity. Sanatana Dharma says the opposite. That no, if you wish to grow spiritually, constancy is something that's of importance. In other words, you do your practice. You do it knowing it's going to be a long haul, knowing that what you're trying to achieve is not cheap, is not meaningless, is not a trinket. You want to achieve God. That being the case, oh, it will take time. How long? Oh, that depends upon you for the most part. It also depends on other factors too, because you're not the center of the world. But much of it does depend upon your sincerity. But you must do for a long time and constantly. What does this mean? This means that indeed, when you are worshiping God, which is what is being spoken of here very specifically, you do this in a constant way. Not that, oh, when I feel like it, oh my Lord, that's one of the many inverted demonic mantras of today. When I feel like it, when will you get to do such and such? Oh, when I feel like it. An individual for whom that comes out of their mouth a lot is not a person who's going to make any spiritual progress whatsoever. No, this is what is meant by constantly. We worship God constantly, not just when we quote unquote feel like it. And what does that mean? You know, of course, some people will get very confused by this, and they'll think, oh, well, that means I can do nothing else. Oh my Lord, what in the world is he saying? That means I have to be sitting in front of my altar like this 24 hours. Can I sleep? Is it okay to take a sleeping break? Or, of course, this is not what's meant by constantly. What's meant by constantly is that with all things that you do, yes, when you're sitting in front of your altar, but also when you're doing other things, when you're at your job, when you're with your family, when you're cooking, when you're doing everything else, you're driving someplace, you're shopping, etc., when you're having fun, when you're taking a walk in nature, you endeavor to have God placed there in the center of your awareness. That's what's meant by constantly. And again, this is the mistake that many, especially neophytes on the spiritual path, make. They think that, well, what it means to be a yogi, what it means to worship constantly, etc., is, all right, I have to quit my job now, I have to move to Omaha, move into a temple with Acharyaji, and we're going to be doing astral travel and levitating all day long, 24 hours a day, and that's what it means to be a spiritual person. And then they get here, and I tell them, go get a job. Go get a place to stay. Are you in a relationship? Are you thinking of getting married? You do want to get married eventually? All right, well, do that. Don't just say it. Establish yourself in the world, and also make sure that Krishna is there in the center of your awareness constantly, both when you're doing puja and when you're at your job, and when you are with your husband or your wife, and when. This is what is meant by, for those who constantly engage in worshiping. Now, we will go on. Worshiping what? Interesting. this verse doesn't merely say, oh, Vishnu or Narayana or God, etc. It says, for those who are constantly engaged in worshiping this supreme abode, Paramapadam, this supreme abode of Vishnu, Vaikuntha. So in other words, very interesting, this verse says when an individual is constantly engaged in worshiping that supreme realm, the kingdom of God, that realm which in a way is non-different from God, that realm which transcends all materiality, that is thoroughly and fully transcendent, where nothing that is its opposite can penetrate, where nothing that is of the nature of illusion, that is the nature of evil, that is of the nature of egotism, etc., can penetrate. That is Vaikuntha. That is Paramapadam. That is that supreme abode. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. Paramam Padam is referring to that supreme abode. That's a verse from Rig Veda. And this verse, interestingly, is remarking, really, is echoing what is said in Rig Veda. Paramam Padam, that supreme abode of Vishnu. Now, it's very interesting. Again, why is it that this verse is not even saying, oh, in constantly worshiping Vishnu, but the supreme abode of Vishnu? This is more interesting than I think most people understand. Because would it be incorrect to say, oh, for those who are constantly engaged in worshiping Lord Vishnu? No, that would not be incorrect. But this verse is trying to be interesting for you. And more, it's trying to convey something deeper that without the assistance of Guru you would not understand in any way whatsoever. By pointing to not just God, but the kingdom of God, again, going back to what we had said the last time, about 2 weeks ago when we were talking about previous verses from here, this is pointing out what is the nature of God, the spiritual. That in addition to Vishnu, also what is considered to be spiritual is that which is connected to Vishnu. In other words, it's saying, again, God is a person. God is a person who is attributive in nature. God is a person who has attributes, who has qualities, who has characteristics, who has lakshana, who has signs and characteristics, etc. And by pointing out specifically the abode of Vishnu, this is what is being pointed out in this verse. That yes, not only God, but all of the attributes of God, all of that which proceeds from God also is worshipable. So thus, God being a person, his abode is not different from him. Not only are we to worship God, we are to worship all that which is connected to God, and that includes Vaikuntha, that includes the supreme abode of the supreme personality of Godhead. And that is why this is being pointed at as the object of worship. Not just Vishnu, but the abode of Vishnu, because that is just as sacred. Now, let's go on. There's actually more I can say about that verse. I have probably about 3 or 4 more points, but time is a factor in this world. So those who worship, again, the supreme abode of Vishnu, and now next clause, rather than their own material desires. So indeed, for most individuals who are in illusion within the material world, of course, what do we worship? Oh, we don't worship the supreme abode of Vishnu, that's for sure. Most people. Most people will once in a while, but the majority of people today, especially 2023, and especially living again in modernity and living in materialistic modernity, what we worship are those objects that we want, those trinkets that are there that we want. What do we worship? We worship money. What do we worship? We worship sex. What do we worship? We worship that person who we are in love with from afar, and whether we'll actually be with them or not, who knows, but we worship them. We're constantly thinking of them. We're meditating upon that person. Oh, I'm so in love with them. I hope they love me back, etc. And I can give a million other examples. So indeed, rather than their material desires, most individuals today being in illusion, thinking that it is matter that is of importance and the acquisition of matter. That individual who acquires the most matter wins in the game of material life, right? That's how most people think. That being the case, it is interesting that this exact terminology is being used, that such individuals are worshiping those objects of their material desire. And that is indeed the case. Well, of course, what is the difficulty in worshiping material things? They're temporary. They're radically temporary. Within the context of eternality, they don't even last for the blink of an eye. That's why they're called illusory. Oh, they're there. Oh, you know, here's a gold bar. It exists. It has weight. Oh, I can buy things with it, etc. How long will I have it for? Until I use it. Then it's gone. Oh, let's say I have it for the duration of my entire life. Let's say it's a really big gold bar. Take off little chunks at a time. Well, eventually I die and I no longer possess it. So whatever is the case, it's temporary. Well, but at least I had it for the full 82 years that I was... 82 years does not even exist within the context of eternity. Please understand. So this is why we are to instead take our worshipful awareness and place it upon Vishnu and that which is associated with Vishnu. Now let's go on. Now for those who indeed engage in the worship of the supreme abode of Vishnu, he, that is Lord Vishnu himself, immediately appears in the form of a cowherd boy. Let's stop there. Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who is my personal Ishta Devata, who I have worshipped for the last 50 years. I have worshipped Krishna actually since I was 10 years old. Before I even encountered ISKCON, before I even read one book by Prabhupada. I think I was maybe around 14 when I first read Bhagavad Gita as it is. But at the age of 10, I understood that Krishna was God. Let me make this very clear. Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu, of Narayana. I'm sorry to our ISKCON friends, not the other way around. Nowhere in the Vedic scriptures does it claim that it's the other way around, and no Orthodox Vaishnava, no Orthodox quote-unquote Hindu, etc., accepts that idea that Narayana is somehow an incarnation or an expansion of Krishna. It's not the case. And this verse also makes this clear, as do many verses from throughout the Vedic scriptures, including, yes, Srimad Bhagavatam as well. So let's go through this. Just this one, again, beginning of a clause. He. Who is the he? It's referring to the individual who it named previously, Vishnu, that he is Vishnu. Vishnu immediately appears in the form of a cowherd boy. That cowherd boy, of course, is Gopala. That is Gopala. That is the protector of the cows, the protector of the senses. That is Krishna. So this verse, as do, again, hundreds of verses throughout the Vedic scriptures, make this very clear. That Vishnu, for the individual who is worshipping, that Vishnu immediately appears in the form of a cowherd boy, as Krishna. And now let's go on. And carefully reveals his own abode at that very time. So indeed, for the individual who is worshipping Krishna, who is worshipping Vishnu, who is worshipping Narayana, but more, who is also worshipping the abode of Narayana. In other words, who understands that Vishnu is a person, that God is a person, that God has qualifications, attributes, characteristics, etc., that God has personality. For that individual, Vishnu will appear to them in the form of a cowherd boy, Krishna, and carefully reveals his own abode at that very time. So simultaneous with that realization of Krishna also comes the realization of Vaikuntha. Now what's meant by this? This means both literally and figuratively. This means figuratively in that along with Krishna, along with Vishnu, appears again all of the attributes, all of the paraphernalia, etc. of Krishna. This is the first thing that this means. The other thing that this means is that that individual attains liberation. So thus, by constantly worshipping Vishnu, not only will you realize Vishnu, but in that realization itself comes liberation. In other words, the very gates of Paramapada, the very gates of Vaikuntha, of the spiritual realm, are opened to you. So indeed, this is an esoteric verse. In fact, it's more esoteric than it seems. Again, I can go deeper. but due to time and due to other factors, I won't go deeper than that. Let's go on to the next verse that we're going to look at. And we're still in chapter 1, but the next verse that we will look at is verse 22. Vishnu is he who, at the beginning of the creation, brought Brahma into being, and then entrusted him with all knowledge. One seeking liberation should take refuge in that divine being who is the revealer of the spiritual intelligence by which one knows the self. Indeed, so again, we are continuing to speak about Vishnu, about God, and now this next verse begins to explain a little bit what is the nature of God. So Vishnu is he who at the beginning of creation brought Brahma into being. We won't go very deeply into that, but just to remind people, Brahma is not Brahman. People get confused about this all the time. Oh my Lord. I'll see Indian Hindu gurus doing talks on YouTube, and they confuse the two. Which of course tells you that they are not a guru. They don't even know the difference. No, there are several words that are related etymologically. When you go back to the verb root, they are related etymologically, but they are different words pointing to different things. So therefore, you will have Brahman, you will have Brahma, you will have Brahmana, sometimes mispronounced Brahmin. And they mean completely different things, but they all do go back to the same verb root. Brahman is God, spoken of philosophically. It's a neuter noun meaning God. Brahma is a specific individual. He is a demigod. He is not God. Rather, he is the individual who creates a material universe on the behest of God. God empowers him to create a material universe. That's who's being spoken of here. Brahmana, for those who need more clarification, that's an individual who is a priest. All right, so we're talking about Brahma, a specific jiva, a specific limited Atman who God empowers to create a universe. So now, with all that being said, Vishnu is he who at the beginning of creation brought Brahma into being. Now, why is this important? It is to show who is who. It's to show who is who. I have never stated it this way, but this is a nice way to understand it. Again, unfortunately for so many neo-Hindus who think that all the gods and goddesses are the same, they're interchangeable, there's no meaning to, oh, this goddess, pick whichever one you want, they're all the same, worship any one of them, and you'll go to the same place. The fact that they all look different is meaningless. The fact that they all have different names is meaningless. The fact that the Vedic scriptures describe them in different ways is meaningless. Pick whichever you want. You can see the nonsensicality of this way of thinking, which is very new, meaning a few hundred years old. No, it's understood that the gods and the goddesses are not God. They're servants of God. And this verse, like again, hundreds of other verses, including in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vedas themselves, make it very clear. Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu is the source origin of all, including the gods and goddesses. The greatest of gods, who is indeed Brahma, who lives for billions of years, takes his head and places it at the feet of Vishnu. Every other god and goddess is below Brahma. So that gives you an indication. So this verse, like many verses, is making it clear yet again. Who is Vishnu? Vishnu is he who at the beginning of creation brought Brahma into being. So this is God. And then entrusted him with all knowledge. So indeed, it is Vishnu who is the source of all knowledge, who is the source of all that is good. Now let's go on. One seeking liberation should take refuge in that divine being, who, now let's stop there actually, let me not go on. One seeking liberation should take refuge in that divine being. And then in parentheses, we know we're talking about Vishnu. This very verse itself says so. That little clause itself gives the summation of the teachings of all of the Vedic scriptures. And more, this is the marga. You want to talk about Trimarga, Panchamarga, You want to talk about 1,000 paths, 5 paths, 3 paths, this path, that path. This is the only path, according to the Vedic scriptures. Let me read this again. One seeking liberation should take refuge in that divine being, Vishnu. This is the path. One can call it Vaishnava and go by the Wikipedia sort of definition of that term, which is, oh yes, that sect that chooses the god Vishnu as their object of adoration. That's why we don't take Wikipedia seriously. Vaishnava is not a sectarian term. Rather, it is a term of behavior. It is an attitudinal term for an individual who truly wants to know God in the highest and with absolute sincerity, who is ready to empty themselves of ego, to empty themselves of illusion, and to then substitute that ego, that illusion, with love of God, to the point where they come to realize God perfectly and to be an eternal servant of God. That is known as being a Vaishnava. That is known as the Vaishnava path. It's not a sectarian term. It's the term for a sort of person spiritually. That is a Vaishnava. So indeed, one seeking liberation should take refuge in that divine being, Vishnu, who is the revealer of the spiritual intelligence by which one knows the self. Indeed, the very beginning of spiritual life, the very foundation, the fundamentals of spiritual life begin with, first of all, knowing oneself. Socrates said this. So many people in so many different legitimate traditions actually point this out, that before I can know X thing, I must know the knower. Oh, what is that object that is the thing that I wish to know? Oh, it is God. All right. I really feel that I have the ability now, that I am equipped to know that which is the source of all things. No, not yet. First, I have to know the knower. I don't even know myself. How can I know that which is the highest of objects? How can I know that which is the source of all knowing? You see, that's what this clause is saying. Who is that Vishnu? The revealer of the spiritual intelligence by which one knows the self. So in other words, to even know indeed that self, we are dependent upon the grace of God. It is God that gives us the intelligence by which we can even begin spiritual life, with that foundation of knowing the knower. Very good. Very nice. Yes, let me say, we're doing very good. This is going to be at least a trilogy, if not more, because I'm going to stop here. We may do 2 verses at a time, actually, because I'm looking at the time, and indeed, I like to give people a nice opportunity to ask questions. So that being the case, we have about 13 minutes before we have to stop, and we do have to stop on time today, actually. And, you know, with all joking aside, because we are going to be doing a yagya, and we have an initiation ceremony that we're going to be starting at 3 o'clock, maybe just a few minutes past. So we are going to be stopping on time today. That being the case, indeed, I will take a few questions and answers now. And again, with the understanding that we will continue with the series of the Gopala-Tapani Upanishad. We will continue with the rest of the verses that we have in the description, and indeed I may add a few more verses. So this will minimally be a trilogy. We'll probably do this for maybe 4 or 5 more sessions. So with that, I thank you for listening to my discourse, very short discourse on these verses. And are there any questions? Questions either from our online audience of individuals from all over the world. I recognize several names here. I see there are people from literally all over the world, the individuals who I recognize, or any questions from anyone here. You had a question?
Yeah.
Nice and loud, please.
So this is related to what you were just talking about how in order, before we know God, we need to know ourselves. Is the process of knowing ourselves, does it come to a complete stop and we just fully know ourselves and then we go on to know God? Or is it a gradual, like, is it something similar to how when we're knowing God, we could know God infinitely.
Good question. Very good question. Hopefully people in the audience could hear the question. Very, very good question, and let me answer that. The process of spiritual growth is one such that indeed we want to achieve self-realization first, technically, before we achieve God consciousness, but at the same time, it's not that we have to wait until we achieve complete perfection in self-realization before we can begin to at least experience something of God, understand something very deep of God. So indeed, the more, in fact, that we are even in that process of understanding ourselves, having self-realization, we begin to experience God. Indeed, we begin to experience God even in the beginning. If that weren't the case, then how do we stay motivated, even in the beginning? So no, we begin to experience God. We experience to know, quote unquote, to know God. We certainly begin to know things of God. But what happens is that, let's put it this way. I like to show visuals because they're wonderful, actually. I presented a paper at Loyola University 30 years ago where I talked about the didactics of teaching philosophy, and I talked about visuals, among other things. Let's say that this is the individual as they are progressing in self-realization, and they're growing. Now, the other hand is God consciousness. That begins to happen too. But still, you're focusing on self-realization. The God consciousness is also being realized. When it comes to the point where now we have achieved complete self-mastery, complete self-realization, now what occurs is a radical change in the individual such that now perceptually, experientially, they are now equipped to understand God on God's fully own terms. In other words, it is at that point that if they also have been practicing bhakti, and this is the important point, if they have also simultaneously, in that process of self-realization, they have also been practicing devotion toward God, now that they achieve self-realization, they now are equipped to experience God in a radically different way than they were experiencing when they still had even the smallest tinge of ego. So it's at this point that now truly the eyes, one could say, I'm saying this metaphorically, the eyes of the Atman are now truly open, and now they can experience God perfectly. So does that make sense? Very good. Good. So yes, even in the beginning, I've said this to people. There are some people who they will begin doing authentic meditation the way we teach it, that is, devotionally, Om Namo Narayanaya, focusing on the names of God, and sometimes doing that the first time. If they sit and they do meditation for 20 minutes, I've had people say, my Lord, I actually felt connected to God. So yes, you begin to experience God in the beginning. But again, to have that shift occur such that now you are perceiving God purely spiritually, you need to come to self-realization fully. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I was also asking more so in regard to knowing the self. Like, you can fully know the self.
Yes.
Right. It's not like this constant, like, infinite, like when you're learning to know God, you can do that infinitely. Is it the same with the self, or when you know the self, because the self isn't God, it does come to a stop where you can...
Good question. Yeah. Similar answer, actually. Yeah. In fact, I was thinking that's what you were aiming at. I was actually going to start to answer that as well. Yeah. But yes, so what you're asking is, once you've achieved self-realization, so as a self-realized being, is that it? You're done. You can continue to explore God infinitely, but as far as exploring yourself, growing yourself, etc., that's done.
Right.
No, that also continues. Yes, what shifts in self-realization, so when an individual has Atma Jnana proper, that is actual self-realization. Again, what occurs is this. Let me try to explain this in a way. Let me try to explain the transcendent in the material world. When an individual is growing spiritually, they are growing to try to come to the point where they are in full self-mastery spiritually. In other words, they are now living fully as Atman. That is how we grow in the material world from the moment that we begin spiritual life up until we have self-realization. We're aiming toward a goal, and that is absolute and complete self-possession of who we are as Atman. All right? Once we have that self-realization, that Atma-jnana, and now indeed we are living fully as Atman. So we're self-realized. Now, as Atman, in full self-possession, we can continue to grow and to know ourselves more and more and more. Except that, again, perceptually it has changed. It's gone from, as we're growing spiritually within the material world, of course, there is growth that is there's qualitative depth that is there, etc. But it's all still within the context of time, space, causality, and our perception is still conditioned by those factors. Now, upon self-realization, those factors are gone. Let me state this colloquially. It is upon self-realization that now we can actually be our true selves, spiritually speaking, and that we can continue to grow in every way, but now meaningfully, spiritually, as opposed to within, again, the context of conditionality. Does that make sense? Good. Very good. Thank you for those very good questions. Let me just say there are some wonderful questions coming in. Very good. Yes, here is a good question from Prometheus. Namaste Acharyaji. Do all the modern Brahma Sampradaya believe Vishnu is a manifestation of Krishna, or is it just ISKCON? Thank you. A wonderful talk as always. Yes, and I won't go very deeply into this. Those devotees who have spoken to me about this know I can, but I don't want to cause, controversy. I never want to cause acrimony between various Vaishnava Sampradayas. But let me say this. As far as the Brahma Sampradaya, that is the Sampradaya of Madhva Acharya, and in the Brahma Sampradaya, it is also accepted that Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. Indeed, the four Sampradayas of Vaishnavism accept that Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu, period. All Vaishnavas accept this, except for most Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Most Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And indeed, ISKCON specifically, yes, unfortunately, they get it wrong. They get it wrong. They think that Krishna is the source of everyone. Krishna is the source of Rama, of Narasimha, of all the avatars. Krishna is the source of Narayana. Krishna is the source of Vishnu, etc., etc. No other Orthodox Vaishnava Sampradaya accepts this. The scriptures don't say this. This is something peculiar to them. And they're fanatical about it. They will go to the grave, or I guess the cremation ground, believing this. But again, it's not supported by anyone. And on top of that, yes, well, that's all I'll say about that. Again, I don't want to cause too much controversy. But indeed, that is the case. Give me a moment as I look at some more of these questions. Good. Here is a question from Robin, and he's actually asking this on behalf of someone else. So he says, "My humble obeisances, Acharyaji. This is a question from an anonymous friend who is unable to attend." And this is the question. "The guilt of something I've done is eating me up every day, and I'm afraid I have caused harm to someone and harmed my relationship with the Lord. Please guide me through it." Absolutely. Well, Robin, thank you for asking that question from someone you know, from a friend. And let me just say right here and now, this sadly will be the last question I think that I'll take, because I do need to go into this in depth, and I want to end with this. So for those who asked more questions, I apologize very deeply, but let me definitely answer this. What it means to be in the material world is that we make mistakes. Why? The vast majority of individuals operate out of ego and illusion. Ego and illusion. Ego, meaning false identity. We make the mistake of creating an artificial self. That being the case, rather than serving our actual needs, that is the needs of the soul, we serve the needs of that artificial self. Oh, and that causes us to make many, many, many blunders in life. But also illusion. Illusion. Illusion is something where you think something is the case and it's not. Illusion is something in which you're walking down the street and you look down and you see a snake and you jump up in fright, and then you look again and you realize, oh, it wasn't a snake to begin with, it was just a rope, and it looked so much like a snake that in my mind I thought I saw a snake. That's the nature of illusion. Well, as individuals who suffer from such illusion in this world, oh, we make mistakes. But more, there are mistakes, but then there are situations in which we consciously choose an unethical path. We choose to harm someone. We choose to do something that is not good. We'll lie to someone. We will, in a deeper way, harm someone physically, emotionally, etc. A million examples that I can use. Well, this is an ethical shortcoming on the part of an individual. And this is even more important than, just making a mistake. Again, you can make an illusory mistake. You thought something was X, it was Y. But now when an individual goes out of their way and chooses to do something that is harmful, that's definitely a terrible thing. But at the same time, we need to, as an individual who, if we are sincere, if we ultimately want to be spiritual, if indeed we want to know the Lord, if indeed we want to grow spiritually, we need to be very objective and sincere with ourselves about this. Was it good that we chose to do an unethical thing? No, never. Never. We should not choose to do unethical things. But at the same time, we need to also see this objectively. That's the nature of the material world. People often choose to do unethical things. That being the case, you're not the only creature in creation who has done an unethical thing or who has harmed someone. Now that you have acknowledged this, now that you have felt guilty about this, and let me tell you, I'll be honest with you, I've said this many times, but now let me say it in this very clear-cut sort of way. The only time that individuals should feel guilty about something, the only time, is if they chose to go out of their way to do harm. Again, many people will make a legitimate mistake, and they'll feel guilty, and I'll say to them, no, you don't have to feel guilty. That was a true mistake. When a person chooses to do harm, yes, guilt should be associated with that. If you don't have that guilt, that means by definition you're a psychopath. A psychopath is an individual who will do tremendous harm and they feel no guilt. That's a psychopath. You don't want to be a psychopath. So that being the case, if you have chosen to do harm and you feel guilty, that's all right. Know that you're human and that the fact that you feel guilty means you're a good person. It means you feel bad that you did something terrible. Now, that being said, you cannot allow yourself to give in to guilt for the rest of your life. No, on the contrary. Now, as a person who is indeed spiritual, because that's what it sounds like, you say here that you're afraid that, you may have damaged your relationship with God, with the Lord. So you're obviously a spiritual person. You're obviously a sincere person. You're a good person. But yes, maybe you chose to harm someone, to do something you shouldn't have. You have felt the requisite guilt for that. Now, indeed, is the time to, instead of reveling in that guilt, instead of burying yourself in that guilt for the rest of your life, now you do need to go past it. Indeed, what this means is, whatever you've done, and I don't know what it is, and you don't even need to say it or tell me in any way, whatever it is, need to offer recompense for it. That is, the person you've harmed, you should apologize. Anything that you can do to correct the situation, You stole something. I'm just using examples. Oh, you stole something. Give it back. You can't give it back because it's gone now. Give them, the same remuneration. Give them money. Give them something such that now they're whole again. Ask them for forgiveness. And if they don't forgive you, accept that. Just accept it. Just say, all right, I understand that you're not ready to forgive me, and move on. You don't keep begging them and bothering them to forgive you. Hopefully they will in time. Again, they're a free will agent as well. But you must ask them for forgiveness. You ask God for forgiveness. And now, having done that, now, practically speaking, use this unethical conduct that you engaged in as something that now, at least didactically, is a good thing. Learn from it, in other words. You did this terrible thing. You shouldn't have. You felt guilty. You have done what you need to now to make up for it. You have apologized to the person. You have apologized to God. You have tried to offer back to the person, try to heal the person, etc. Now, having done all that, now learn. And say to yourself, I'm never doing that again. And indeed, allow this to be more fuel for you to continue to grow spiritually. And you see how in this way, this is the marvel of God's world, of God's creation. We did something bad, and now that very bad thing itself, we haven't made it good. No, it's still, it should not have happened. But the fact that it happened, we can now use as a good thing for ourselves to now grow spiritually. Now redouble your effort to be a good spiritual person, to be an ethical person, to be someone who not only do you not want to ever harm again, but on the contrary, that's the negative. That's a negation. Oh, I will not harm. More than that, make yourself into someone who positively wants to bring joy to people's lives, wants to bring good to people's lives, wants to help people, to benefit people, etc. And in this way, you have taken your own personal experience of having done something bad, and now you've learned from it, and now something good will come as a result of this. Grow deeper in your own virtue and in your own desire to always do good, always do good, always do good. And understand that as far as your relationship with God, nothing can truly damage your relationship with God. Let me assure you of this. If you choose again and again and again repeatedly to do unethical things, to harm people, you yourself are creating increasing barriers between yourself and God, such that you will not be able to perceive God as well as you would have ordinarily. But being truly separated from God, that's an impossibility. Indeed, I've said this before. This is the nature of God, that God is omnipresent, that there is nothing anywhere within the material or the spiritual world that is not interpenetrated with the very presence of God. That being the case, God is always with us. And God sees us always at our best, at our worst, and God does not leave us. We've all experienced this in our lives. We've had people who have left us. Friends, family members, people who, they abandon us, they give up on us, they betray us, etc., etc. Who's that friend who I had when I was a kid, for 5 years, 10 years, and I thought we'd be together forever? Yeah, when's the last time I called that person? 20 years ago? God is that friend who never, ever, ever leaves us. Always understand that. And when we are at our best, when we are at our worst, God is there, loving us. God's love for us as Atman is truly unconditional. And that being the case, ask God for forgiveness, but understand that you're already forgiven. The asking for forgiveness is an exercise for you. You're not persuading God of anything. God already forgave you. So please don't worry. Do not worry. Don't do anything bad again. Never harm anyone again. But at the same time, continue joyfully on your path to knowing God, and know that you will. Very good. With that, we're going to have to stop here. And again, I apologize. We did go 9 minutes over, but what can we do? It was important that I answer that question. But we are going to stop here because, again, we're going to have a beautiful yagya and then initiation ceremony in a short time. And join us again the next time we get together. Again, most likely not next Sunday because we're going to have a temple full of devotees and many devotees watching through Zoom. We're going to have our annual conference next Sunday. But the Sunday after that, we will continue with the Gopala-Tapani Upanishad. Very good. Did you have a comment? No, you're good? All right. Very good. So with that, again, I thank you all for being here. Let me just say, again, before we leave, very, very quickly. In fact, I wish I could truly convey my heart to everyone who's listening now. Spirituality is not a spectator sport. It's wonderful that you are here, that you're watching from wherever you are, whatever nation you are, whether in your living room, in your kitchen, or whatever room you're in, watching. Don't just watch. Don't just watch. Please be involved. Get involved in the International Sanatana Dharma Society. If you were involved at some point in the past, but then, whatever, you got busy, you got distracted by something, please get involved again. Please come again and be involved in the ISDS. But be involved in every way. Again, join our Discord server, get on there and start talking and asking questions. Be involved with the ISDS itself. Become a member. If you go to our website, dharmacentral.com, you'll see all the information by which you can become a monthly tithing member of the ISDS, and then we will know who you are. Give a one-time donation. Ask if you can do some seva. Do you have a skill? Do you have a very, very unique skill that can help us to get the message of Dharma out there to an even greater audience than we have? And we have an enormous audience now. Please, please get involved. Are you meditating? Are you actually meditating? You hear us talk about meditation all the time. You tune in every week and hear me talk about meditation. Are you meditating? Are you doing puja? Do you have a home altar? Establish a little home altar. It's very simple. Find an image of Krishna. Put it on a clean place. It could be on a table. It could be on a bookshelf if that's all you have. You're living in a one-bedroom apartment. Take some incense and each day just offer incense. And then sit there and recite Om Namo Narayanaya. Try to do that and focus on the mantra for as long as you can, 20 minutes. Try to do 108 rounds. I'm sorry, 108 mantras. 108 rounds actually is doable. I know. But yes, do. Don't just watch. Do. And when you actually perform spiritual action, you will see that your life will become wonderful in every way. So with that, again, I will see you all for our next live stream in 2 weeks. Those who will be attending the conference, I'll see you in 1 week. And everyone, namaste. And everyone, please repeat after me. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Sri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Sri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Victory to Sanatana Dharma. Victory to the Dharma nation. Victory to the solar dynasty. Evam bhavatu. May such victory be so. And so it shall be. With that, everyone, until the next time we get together, I ask you all to please take very good care of yourselves in every way.